Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Mark Laub, and this is my podcast, Challenges Are Disguised Opportunities. It's my first podcast, and don't have a lot of preparation for this per se, but I really wanted to begin this because I know how impactful this will be for me, and hopefully people who view it. But for me, really, this is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I've been wanting to start a podcast because I really am very passionate about mental health and the value that, paying attention to one's own mental, but not just one's own mental health, the world's whole mental health. Paying attention to it is very impactful. And I've seen that. I really want to be a voice and a positive light in people's lives because, the world is a scary place. It's a dangerous place. It's an unforgiving place full of uncertainty. And we have to be able to live through all that and not use that as barriers to our lives. And I've grown in ways that have really allowed me to appreciate being human and how to view every challenge as a guiding force for opportunity. Now I can really begin with my experience with OCD. So a lot of people who know OCD or who think of OCD, and by a lot of people, I'm generalizing, of course, right? I'm not going to be able to. I'm not a therapist. I'm not someone that's going to be able to give exact facts of these things. But the reason I say it is because also I haven't felt this way even before I really knew what OCD was. OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, is an anxiety disorder. It is a mental illness, and it manifests itself in many different ways. It can be very physical, and by that I mean it can be very easily seen in people, whether that be people are checking compulsively, checking either locks, checking stoves, checking whatever. It could be anything literally, or it could also be mental, and that was my experience. I had a lot of intrusive thoughts about I had a lot of intrusive thoughts really about when I was younger. Um, I call quote unquote false memories, if you will, where they present thoughts as memories that feel very real and make you think you did something or thought something or wanted to do something or whatever it may be that you never really thought about before, or for lack of a better way to say it, never really happened. um, and for me in particular, this could go anywhere from sexually abusing someone to hurting someone to wanting to hurt someone. And they were all these thoughts that I was just constantly having in my head. um, and for someone who, you know I want to believe, of course, I don't want to do these things. I don't like these things. Um, I see no value in any of those things, and I think that's one of the baselines for understanding OCD is it latches on to what you value. So if you value relationships, if you value kids, if you value love, if you value friendship or whatever it may be, or health, OCD, this anxiety disorder, this mental illness will throw things at you to counteract what you value, to make you question yourself and truly question everything about you, your whole life, your whole thoughts and everything. And the whole reason why it's allowing this to happen to you too is because you are viewing your thoughts as facts and you're viewing your feelings as facts rather than letting them just pass over you and wash over you. Um, so, for about 6 years, I would say, and longer than that, but I always never knew it was OCD. Um, I had thoughts about death, whether it be with myself or people that I loved when I was in high school and middle school. I had thoughts about my health that affected my appetite, affected just how I went about my days, went about my relationships with people. And then ultimately, I had a lot of OCD the last few years, in particular, when I was dating someone, um, a lot about, did I hook up with someone? Did I want to hook up with someone? Do I like this person? Do I want to be with this person? Just thoughts constantly about thinking that I may have done something, that I want to do something. Everything that was just about doubt, and specifically doubting my self-worth and doubting who I am as a person and as a human, really. I realized I was alien, and I was really alien, and I was really, really in need for help and support. Um, and so eventually, let's say about a year from now, or sorry, a year ago, I've seen therapy and I've gone to therapists all my life, different kind of ones. Maybe it's anxiety induced or just different things that I didn't really know that I was struggling with. Finally saw an OCD therapist, or OCD specialist rather, for the first time ever. And the first few months are probably the hardest things I've ever done. And the reason I say this is because if you don't know a lot about OCD or about a lot about kind of mental health treatment and in those ways, the gold standard treatment, as they say, is called ERP, which is exposure response prevention. And quite literally, it is exposing yourself to the things that you fear. So as I mentioned, I didn't necessarily have a lot of physical things that I feared. It was a lot of things that mental. I was afraid of my thoughts. I was afraid of what it was telling me. I was afraid of the feelings that it was bringing me. I was believing everything, and I wasn't allowing myself to one, accept the thoughts, two, understand that they could be distorted, and three, be human. Couldn't do any of that stuff. I wasn't allowing myself to do it. I was thinking that wasn't the right way to go about this. So in therapy, I had to really go through the motions of exposing myself to the uncertainty of these thoughts, and maybe they happened, maybe they didn't. Maybe I feel this way, maybe I don't. Maybe I want to do this, maybe I don't. And that's in response to all those things that I just mentioned about wanting to hurt someone, wanting to abuse someone, having actually done so. Um, and all these things that I'm actually saying out loud, I've never ever said publicly or really in any direct way. I've told people that I'm close with, but I've never been in the headspace that I am now to recognize the power of being honest with myself and being vulnerable with myself and ultimately being open with myself. And so let's say, where should I jump to now, I suppose? I guess let's jump to the last 8 months, or I guess last year in treatment, but really last 8 months because the first few months, um, I was just learning the treatment. I was learning it all. I was trying to grasp it. I wasn't believing it in the beginning too, because I was like, there's no way exposing myself to these thoughts of they possibly being true is going to help. But ultimately, what I recognized that I was doing throughout all of this, I was looking at a challenge. I was looking at these challenges that were coming in front of me, and I was afraid, absolutely, to take the step in working on myself and doing this treatment and thinking that it could be true without having any knowledge that it actually, or sorry, without having any personal experience of it actually being beneficial or impactful. I've seen it, and when you see it, I'm sure everyone's had this experience. You're like, oh, it helps them, but it's not going to help me. And that kind of thinking is one, distorted, but also it's a very understanding way of thinking. I can relate to that. I think a lot of people can relate to that way of thinking. Mental illness and OCD in particular, because that's the only way that's the only thing I can speak to, makes you feel very alone and makes you feel like you're super unique when in reality, you're unique, but you're not that unique. And the last 8 months, I've begun to look at my life and myself and the various things that I want to do and really try to hammer down, why am I doing this? Why am I spending time with these people? What is the value that I'm getting from it? What is the purpose? What is the impact? And I started to actually make efforts to, one, keep choosing to keep hanging out with people that are valuable to me. And then two, do things that are also valuable to me. And I'm tired of kind of allowing myself to not step up for myself. And I'm tired of not being kind to myself when I don't feel certain, when I don't feel great, or when I feel a certain way that maybe, you know, isn't exactly how I maybe quote unquote wish I was feeling in that circumstance. The overall message of today that I wanted to get out, um, is really the power of embracing fear. And there's a quote actually. Let me get this quote because this quote is too good, and it's on my Twitter. So if you found this through Twitter, I hope you found the quote. So it's beautiful in my eyes. I didn't come up with the quote, but I had to put it out there. Courage is not the absence of fear. I'll repeat that again. Courage, the definition of courage and being courageous, does not mean fear is not existent or is not there or you've gotten over the fear, but rather it is the judgment that something else is more important and more valuable to you than the feared action. I want everyone to recognize that we're all human, and I'm sure you've heard that all the time. And I've heard it all the time. We're human, like what the hell does that mean? To me, it means we have the capacity to recognize fear, but sometimes instead of choosing fear, we choose love. And the reason why I think love is the opposite in that sentence is because the valued action, the more important action that you will choose in response to fear, is ultimately what you love and is ultimately what you want. It's ultimately what you want to do to move forward in this life. We only live once. We have one life to figure out how the hell we're going to make of it. The power of fear is to keep us from living certain things and doing certain things because we don't know what it might bring. It might bring consequences that are more negative than we've ever experienced. It might. It might also bring consequences that are more positive than we've ever experienced. Because if you don't take risks, if you don't embrace fear, maybe having a script actually is helpful because now I'm starting to cry about this thought. I mean, it's difficult because this is just my experience, right? Everyone has a different experience, and everyone has probably embraced fear multiple times for it to end in a way that has been maybe more negative. And that's life, right? That's why everything is uncertain. And that's why you have to embrace it. But I wanted to be very open and vulnerable. I want to be there for you. That I want to be someone that you can go to and who is willing to give you love. I love you all. And I love you, Mark, as well.